Okay, everybody. So, just as a PSA, this is full of spoilers, as well as our opinions. Like it, love them, agree with them, hate them, whatever. I just want to make sure everybody knows this is full of spoilers and chock full of our opinions. So, I hope you guys love the episode. Welcome to WROL Comics Chat. So we're still workshopping different names, and so I promise we'll have a formal name for it going forward. But right now, in your hearts and minds, you can kind of just think of it as being probably the best comics chat out there. And we have some really huge comics fans. I mean, some people that I love talking comic books with, everything DC. And so with me on the podcast, we have first up Hawkguy.
Hey, everybody.
And then we have Boomstam,
Hi, guys.
also known as the person that's a moderator of almost every DC Discord that's out there. And then finally, we have a not new name to the community, but a new name to the WL podcast. We have Digidax.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. And so, just for everybody listening out there, so this is our inaugural episode of us getting together, kind of talking about all things DC. That's not DC Legends and everything that's going on there. DC Legends obviously brought us all together. But DC is what made us first download the game, right, and hang out. So we wanted to put together a podcast where we get together and just talk about, comic books. A lot of times it'll be latest issues of comic books. Sometimes it may be some other things that are going on in the DC, kind of comic verse. But just fans of all things comics, and wanted to come together as a team and kind of just talk through some of this stuff. So. Really excited to kind of pick everybody's brains on some of the things that are going on. Now with that, I said and kind of teased it a second ago. So this is Digidax's first time joining us. So want to get to know him a little bit. So Digidax, kind of tell us about what brought you over to DC Legends to begin with.
It was May 2020, the height of the COVID. There was nothing to do, nothing to spend money on, and I like to spend money. So my cousin sent me this game, and a couple of my friends had already been playing this for years. And at the time I was like, I don't play mobile games. So I picked it up, started playing it, and have been addicted since day one.
Oh, cool. And so when did you first start getting into DC Comics, and who's your favorite comic book hero?
It was probably watching Super Friends, the reruns as a kid. Back then, I probably liked the Wonder Twins when I was a kid. I'm like, yay, they're cool, and they have a monkey. But since then, Superman's obviously my favorite, but most people pick Superman. So I'm going to go with my more, I guess, obscure, well, I mean, not obscure to DC nerds, but Booster Gold and Mr. Miracle are probably tied for my second favorites.
Okay.
There's no shame in Superman as your favorite superhero.
Oh yeah, by far Superman. He's done it all. He's been around forever. Multiple TV shows, movies, animated movies.
Okay. And then what comics are you currently collecting?
Basically the entire DC universe, plus the Ninja Turtles and Hellboy whenever he releases them. an issue. I am not a Marvel guy, though.
Okay. So you have obviously a ton of input, as we kind of talk through everything DC every week, so or every 2 or 3 weeks. So that's awesome. What about you, Hawkeye? Like, what comics are you currently reading?
Nightwing and Flash are probably 1-2 for me right now. Action Comics that just wrapped up the WROL saga was up there as well. But I get a good bit of DC's output right now, and then just whatever Image books draw my interest.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Boom?
Basically same as Digi. I read every weekly comic that DC puts that brings out every week. I sometimes skip the more I don't know, the more sometimes like the black label ones. I think like a Nice House on the Lake and Basket Full of Heads. I don't really read those. But yeah, every superhero themed comic book I try to get my hands on.
And so I'm probably a little like the opposite of you guys. So I actually read a ton of Marvel. I know everybody.
Oh, no.
But I do read a lot of DC, and so generally, my weekly stuff is anything Superman, Justice League, Green Lantern, um, and then generally like any tie-ins that all they have. I really, I actually like Flash a lot, and the times I read those comics, like I really get a kick out of it. But I haven't ever sat there and said, "Hey, I'm gonna just go through every Flash comic." So I am looking forward to at some point just having a ton of volumes that I can pull down all at once and try to do it. And so yeah, that's me. And so for our first kind of kickoff of this, we all kind of talked about like, hey, where should we get started? What should it look like? And we all kind of came up with let's talk about like the current or the just past big event that happened in DC Comics, which was Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. And so it had a lot of setup. And so let's start off with that. There was a ton of setup, and it kind of went a few different directions. At times it was hard to kind of see what's coming next and what's happening. But let's open it up to you guys. Like, let's kind of think about like everything that kind of went into setting up Dark Crisis. What was your favorite? What kind of stands out to you guys on all that?
Well, if I could just start on that. I don't know if people know this, but it kind of started with Justice League number 75, with the death of the Justice League, where Pariah basically wipes out the entire Justice League in a single move. And that kind of started the whole Dark Crisis series. But what I liked about how it started was the Justice League is dead. They acknowledged that in the comic books, but they also said, death doesn't really hold a grip on these guys. It's kind of like death is a revolving door for these superheroes. They've all been dead before at one point or another, and they were really honest to themselves. As creators and as a comic book, but also they were really honest towards the fans, the reader. That they were saying, don't worry. Yes, they're dead, but don't worry, they'll be back at some point. And at that point, we didn't know if that was going to be like a day, a week, or a year. But it was, to me, it felt really honest towards the reader and towards themselves. And it also felt reassuring that, yes, your favorite character may be dead now, but don't worry, they'll be back.
Well, that's always a reoccurring theme in comics. I mean, they're dead one month and, they're back the next. So,
well, not all of them. I mean, Superman was dead for a whole year.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. But they did have the four replacements, but they always knew deep down they had a timeline of when they were bringing him back.
Yeah, I know. No, nobody stays dead in the comics. I know. It's just that. Well, I mean, I'm a Superman fan, and if they did kill, I mean, they did kill the Justice League, but including Superman. But if they kept them all out of the comic books for a year or maybe longer, as a fan, you just want to see your hero, your character. You want to see him. You want to read about it. You want to see him in action. So if they did that, uh, I mean, for a while it would be okay, but if it would have prolonged, then I don't think people would like that because people want to see their superhero. So I'm not saying that the books after the death of Superman were bad. On the contrary, I think they were quite good. Uh, but that's not why you buy the comic book called Superman. You buy it because of Superman. You don't buy it because you'll see Batman in there, for instance.
I had
yeah,
one question, just, I mean, not completely off topic, but Boomstam, when you read a comic, are you reading in Dutch? Or are you reading in English?
I read them in English. I prefer them in English. One, I get them faster because if I have to wait for the translation, and not all of them get translated, I would have to wait a lot longer before reading them. But I also prefer reading them in English because that's the language it was intended in. Um, but it does also hold a bit of a challenge for me because at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at English, reading, writing, speaking. Uh, but at the end of the day, it's not my native language. Even now I have to sometimes think about words or sentences, and trying to uh, form them before speaking them. The same goes with reading a comic book in a different language. Uh, I sometimes have to reread a panel or reread an entire issue to get a better grip on what was meant. Uh, so yeah, it does hold its challenges in a way, but I do prefer them in English. Thanks for asking.
Well, I
see, I
guess
wanted to
one
go over
word,
something.
impressive. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, you're fine, Digi. I was just going to say I do want to disagree a little bit with Boomstam, and that's one of the things I actually kind of found a little bit disappointing about Dark Crisis was, they've been teasing transitioning away from the original Justice League lineup for, probably 5, 6 years now. They've touched on it. I mean, really, you could probably go back and look to all the way back at Final Crisis. There was talks of, let's take Superman off the board, let's take Batman off the board for a while, and have that next generation of heroes take over the mantles. And that's one of the things I've always really enjoyed about DC is just the fact that it's got the legacies all set up within there. And there's an evolution over time, and that's one of the things with New 52 that they just completely wiped out. And we've just recently started getting back to where it was before the New 52 wiped out all the legacies.
Yeah, and when I looked at it and they said, I kind of took it like, hey, we're gonna kill everybody off, and not that obviously they were up front at first said it's not gonna be final, but I felt like it was gonna be a little longer, and that it was gonna be, like we'd see, much more of these characters and everything, and while obviously you got to see, and I think you got to know them a little bit more through these comics and this series. I still kind of felt like it would be something similar to Death of Superman and whatever it was 92, where he was gone for a while, or where they were just gone for a lot longer.
Well, I think it's funny that you brought up Death of Superman, because I think that's one of the most impactful deaths in the comics, maybe ever. Like I said, they kept him dead for a year, but back then they didn't really have a shoe-in as a replacement. They when other characters have died, like Barry as the Flash died, and they had Wally replace him. When Batman, quote unquote, died, they had Nightwing replace him, but there wasn't a next generation Superman. Yes, they tried to replace him with a cyborg Superman and a Superboy and Steel and Eradicator, but there wasn't really anyone that could replace him one-on-one. And now they could have kept him that longer, because we have John, the son of Superman, who could have become Superman for a longer period than they actually did in Dark Crisis. So yes, they could have taken the opportunity to really cement these replacements in, but they didn't by bringing them back early. As a matter of fact, they brought them back in the same book series. So, yeah.
Okay. And so, kind of, we started off talking about kind of setting up for it. So, Hawkguy, Digidax, anything stand out to you guys and how they set up? What you like? Was there any of those key components that you really liked or you didn't like?
This is what I'm thinking, that the main characters, while they are alive, they will be running their own issues, and they will have the new characters be the Justice League or the Teen Titans. I think they will focus on the new teams and have characters like Superman. I know they're starting a new Green Arrow series, so spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure Oliver Queen isn't dead. But I think they're going to have them focus more on their own adventures and leave the team to, the new teams, like the younger characters.
Well, I think you're right, because at the end of Dark Crisis, they did say that the Justice League as a team is dead. They basically ended with Nightwing saying, I have some ideas on that, so maybe the Titans will replace them, or whatever. So yes, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they all probably will do their own thing, but they won't show up for any Justice League meetings or roll calls or whatever. They'll probably just do their own thing. So the Justice League as a team is dead, just not members of the Justice League are dead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for sure. Hawkeye, what are your thoughts?
So Boom, I was just going to say, what did you guys just think of the event overall? Just blanket, how was it paced? Did the moments have significant heft to them? Just kind of curious what you guys thought of it.
I thought the series, the main series was pretty good. I thought most of the tie-ins or spin-offs or whatever you want to call it were pretty good, because you got to see the once it was clear that they weren't really dead, but they were trapped in a new world created by Pariah. That you got to see some of those worlds. That was pretty cool. Some kind of heaven or hell for a set hero. Clark got to spend time with his son, which he lost when they super aged John. I think it was Green Arrow and Dinah. They had some kind of a fairy tale world where they keep finding each other. So yeah, most of the times I like and the entire main series I like, but not all of the tie-ins I like as much as the others, and I thought that they were a little bit much. I thought if the series as a whole would have been a little bit more compact, I think that would have helped me better understand the entire story of it without branching off all different kind of things, different kind of storylines. But that's just my opinion on it.
What about you? Did you?
For me, I am a sucker for cameos, and this series jam-packed them through. Having two Blue Beetles in one, series, Captain Carrot, characters you usually don't see. Like, that's, Mr. Miracle's in this, Firestorm, Ronnie Raymond's in it, two Adams, Felix Faust. Even though they weren't all used to their potential and they weren't the main characters, I love seeing all the different characters used, even if it's in cameo. Obsidian, he's another one, favorite of mine that I got to see that is barely used.
What did you guys, and maybe you didn't, what did you guys think of the villains that were used? We have Pariah as the main bad guy, but he basically enslaved, every big bad in the DC universe. We have Darkseid on the chain, we have Doomsday on the chain, and they're all pretty much his lapdog. What do you guys think of that?
In the end, I ended up finding it just very underwhelming. When you're going to throw Darkseid, Necron, Neuron, Doomsday, Deathstroke, Ares, you're throwing the absolute baddest of bad in the DC universe on a team together. And I really feel like they just did not deliver on the promise of what we were shown the first time they showed all of those guys in a spread together during this event.
Oh yeah, it was made for splash pages and big wow moments, but I think that they will try to, recover from this, saying, well, they were all under the control of the darkness, and that's why they weren't the threats they usually are. But yeah, it was underwhelming seeing a team of baddies like that, and then you see Dr. Light go one-on-one with them, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, like, it kind of, because Deathstroke always kind of has that, like, is he a hero? Is he like an anti-hero? Like what's going on? And I think, this really kind of put him in that, hey, when you see somebody teaming up with, Doomsday and, all like these, like, Necron and all these really bad of the bads, like, it really kind of shows that, like, hey, he's kind of taken that step, and something's kind of pushed him really just say, hey, I'm going full villain now. But I guess you kind of look at it several ways. Like Digi just said, being under the influence of something else, like, kind of, make them a little weaker, where you didn't see them with as much power. But then you also got to see, at times where John Kent's growing up, right, and the beast that killed, Kal-El, John, took him out, and you have, kind of all this stuff where it's like, hey, like, I'm coming of my own now, and I'm standing up to, these really powerful, beings and creatures, and walking away. And so there's some really powerful moments through some of them, like, when John's, taking off to go, like, basically fight the whole army himself, to kind of buy the team some time. Like, there were some times where kind of, you kind of felt it. Kind of felt it in there, and so I kind of liked how they played, like, so many people against, like, these new heroes, and kind of showed, like, hey, they're gonna rise up, and in some cases take out the ones that took out the original heroes, multiple times in the past.
Yeah.
Seeing Black Adam go try to recruit the Legion of Doom to help him, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be badass. And the Secret Society of Villains, I was like, oh man, this is going to get good. And then very little payoff with that. They were all under the influence of the darkness, and they run Black Adam out. But I thought, man, this is going to be a cool scene, and pretty underwhelmed by that. It was cool. Like I said, I'm a sucker for cameos, and I was like, oh my God, they're all here on one page.
Yeah, part of me wondered like if this was like how like it was originally planned to be. Like, hey, we're gonna do future state, and then we're gonna find ways to connect it. Like, part of me wondered like through some of the issues, like was this how they really planned it to be, or did they just say, hey, we have to figure out how to get it from this point to this point, and the shortest distance is this one line right here, right? And we got to go down this path, because you're right. Like there were some things that you're like, man, like this could be like its own little storyline or several issues of a comic itself, and then some of these events were stuck to like a page or 2 pages at best, or you kind of saw the beginning of it on one page and then it kind of acknowledges it again, like a different issue, kind of saying, hey, here's what happened there. And so look, again, like I was thinking some of it, I was just like, man, like I don't know if this was the plan, but it kind of seems a little rushed, and it seems like, hey, we're trying to close this gap as much as possible.
So you think they are, they achieved the DC universe that they wanted in the first place by doing this?
I don't know. Like part of me, like I wonder, like what they were, like I was not a huge fan of death metal. I really liked some of the Justice League Incarnate stuff that came in there. I liked, some of the comics where they kind of went to where was that? I forgot what the series was called, but where Darkseid and Jessica Cruz and Cyborg and Azrael,
Justice League Odyssey.
The Frontier or whatever.
Yeah, Justice League Odyssey is that, I think.
Yeah. Whenever they all went out there, like I liked some of those. Wasn't a fan of death metal, so again, I just wonder, like, are we trying, like, was there like a set direction, or was this like, hey, we have a bunch of people doing several different things, and we're bringing in a new writer here and there, and now we have to try to close this loop somehow, and so here's the way we can do it. But
well, I do feel that ever since the New 52, they've been kind of struggling with what the DC universe should look like what they want it to look like. With Rebirth, they took it in a certain direction. Then with Death Metal, they brought back all the previous stories and comic books. They said, everything that happened before matters. And they created the Omniverse, and it's a pretty big universe you can play with and have different versions of your characters and play around with them as writers and artists. Now with the Dark Crisis ending, they have the return of the Infinite Universe. So that's basically the universe before the Crisis on Infinite Earth. I don't know how that will affect everything, because with the DC Omniverse, it was already big, and now they made it even bigger. Maybe, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I think they want the most characters that they can have. Every version, I think they're just going for. I think the main theme of this was legacy, and even Mr. Mxyzptlk has a son now that I was unaware of. That Mickey Mxyzptlk, and he was the main villain of Young Justice, where he was their super fan.
Yeah, he was new, exactly, yeah. But I think it will open up the universe for upcoming or existing artists and writers. I think it will allow them to do their own thing a little bit more, take the characters in a new direction, or have a different version of that character and take it for a spin. So I think that could be a good thing. But I don't really see that big of a difference between the Omniverse and the Infinite Universe that we have now. But that's just me.
I think if they have a storyline that isn't going their way, or say the main editor isn't liking what one of the writers is doing. They're like, well, that happened on Earth 28 and a half, so it didn't count. And
Yeah, that's true.
all that crap you saw, it didn't happen. So you don't even have to worry about it.
Well, I think they already showed that other books that they brought out, like DC Mech and that sort of book, that those kind of books, that they already said that it happened on a different Earth or a different universe. So I think they are already sort of pulling in that direction. So yeah, I think you're right.
It's one of those things. I think it seems like it's a bigger thing than it actually is. If you're reading the mainline books, they all kind of stay in their own corners to an extent. Anyway, some of them go a little bit bigger, but they're all kind of focused on Prime Earth, Main Earth, or Zero, whatever you want to call it. So.
Well, yeah, that's true. But way back when, 1985, when the first Crisis on Infinite Earth happens, they did that for a reason, because they thought that the DC universe was getting too complicated, too complex for new readers. So they reverted it to a single universe with the event Crisis on Infinite Earths, and now they just brought back all those Infinite Earths, and they're going to say, hey, we're okay with it now. So,
I mean, one of the things is I think everybody's started to get a lot wiser when it comes to Infinite Earths. The other thing you got to consider too is how many reboots, quasi-reboots, are just altogether retcons they've done of the DC universe over the last 10 years.
Hey, you should know that better than anybody, right, Hawkguy, with Hawkman's convoluted backstory.
Exactly. So I mean, it's one of those things that it's got a lot of repercussions, but how much they'll actually pay off in main storylines and things like that is going to remain to be seen.
True. That's true. Well, I don't really mind if they reboot stuff or change things or whatever. I just want great comic books with great stories and great artwork. If they do that, I'll be happy. I don't really care if it doesn't really quite fit continuity, or if it says in this issue Superman said this or was there. How could that be if he's in another place or in another time in a different book? As long as the story on its own is great and the artwork is great, you won't hear a peep from me.
Okay, I got to ask you this, Boomstam, because you're the biggest Superman fanboy I know. And I go to the Superman Celebration Festival. There's huge Superman nerds there, but you're probably still the biggest Superman fanboy I know. Do you actually like John?
Yes, I do. But I would have liked it if they kept him younger for a longer period of time. If that makes sense. I think he
was aged like he was on a sitcom or a soap, right? They aged him about...
They aged him too fast. And, look at Damian. He's the same age, maybe a little bit older than John. And they are, slowly aging him, if you will. He's, I don't know, maybe 14 now-ish.
And I'll tell you this, I absolutely loathe Damian Wayne. I would trade him for a Marvel character. That's how much I hate Damian Wayne.
No, I don't hate Damian. I think he was better with Dick, with the Batman Superman book, Batman Robin book, Batman and Robin book, where Dick was Nightwing. Where Dick was Batman and where Damian was his Robin. I think that was better.
To be fair, Nightwing makes every character better, does he not? Everybody loves Nightwing, so I mean... Yeah,
true. But I also think he made a great Batman for his Robin. If with Bruce, there's just that father and son tension that tends to turn into World War III every time they're together. So, and for a while that's fun, but it's been going on for a long, long time now. For now you're like, can't they just get along and be a great dynamic duo together? And they just don't seem to work that out.
My favorite, I mean, this is what I'd want for him. I would love for Damian Wayne to become a villain. I think that would probably be the best. I mean, they've already killed him off. No one liked his solo series. Just make him a villain. I think that would be an amazing storyline to have.
I actually quite enjoyed his solo series, so take that back.
Oh, sorry, buddy. I do love Hawkman, though, if that gets many points back with you.
It started with John, and like I said, I really, really like the Super Son series. Where both Robin and Superboy team up, and they go on all sorts of adventures together. I just absolutely love those stories, and I still think they made a mistake by aging him up too fast. I do think he's a great Superman, and I'm curious what direction they will take him. We already know that he is going to be the next Superman Blue, if you keep up with any sort of comic book news. So yeah, that's interesting to see where that is headed. But yeah, I like John. But
okay.
if I have to choose, I prefer Clark.
All right, back to the books. Does anybody have a favorite moment that happened in the main series, 1 through 7? One of my favorite moments is when Black Adam sees both Blue Beetles. He goes, "Do we really need 2 Blue Beetles?" And my answer is always yes.
Probably for me, my personal favorite was Black Adam. After everything's said and done, he's talking to John and Clark, and he tells John, "At least you didn't die like your father did," and then flies off. And John's just like, I don't know whether that was a compliment or not. And Clark's just like, "Yeah, that was a compliment." About
I love that. That was a great moment.
Okay,
but yeah, I think that this will allow them to experiment a little bit more with legacy characters or characters that we haven't seen in a little while. So yeah, I think it's interesting going forward.
One thing we haven't discussed yet is that epilogue at the end of issue 7, where they did something really interesting, where they introduced the light from Young Justice into the main continuity.
Yeah.
Which I definitely thought was interesting. And then you get that final splash page of Waller with Peacemaker and
a Lady Peacemaker.
And then 2 other characters that don't really have a name to them yet, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think you're right. The Batman character, he kind of looks like what's that latest Batman villain called? That robot Batman, Failsafe. He kind of looks like Failsafe a little bit.
So I believe the Peacemaker girl robot is Peace Wrecker. I think that's her name.
Really?
So yeah. I kind of looked at it a little different. So did you guys read the issue where Amanda Waller basically takes on Earthery?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this kind of ties into a lot of that, like, her kind of being in the multiverse, like bringing back multiple versions. And that's where I think, like, personally, I think the Batman Superman person actually more, to me, closely resembles a evil version of when Batman, Superman, and the Green Lantern they all kind of combined. The Green Lantern power within Batman and Superman, and that's why you see like the yellow hand. So it's like you probably have like like some sort of evil version of Kal-El's enemy, Batman's enemy, and then Yellow Lantern kind of coming together to have that person. And then I don't really know who the big one is. I was trying to think through it, but I couldn't really figure out who the big person was kind of standing in the back.
I think that's an interesting approach, Burger. With your analogy of the combining of Batman, Superman, and Green Lantern. I really haven't thought of it that way. The big guy, I think he might be, but I'm not sure. He might be the Equus or Equus character from Superman for Tomorrow, from a very long time ago. He kind of looks like that, but he could also be a whole new bad guy. So I don't know. We'll see. But I like your approach for the Superman Batman character.
Yeah, because it looks just like him. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
it didn't have like the weird, smile on his face and all that, but it looks just like him from the most recent run of Batman Superman. That comic series where they fight like what's it, Demon Naza or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks just like that person.
He also has a lantern symbol on his shoulder pad, if I look at it correctly. You guys notice that?
Well, I noticed the yellow hand that was glowing, and that's why I figured
Well,
that's
on
what
the
I
same
saw.
hand, he's the yellow lantern symbol on his shoulder pad in green. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think
I
that is kind of cool how it sets it up. But sorry, Hawkeye, you were going.
You're fine. I think we've covered Dark Crisis pretty well. And the crazy thing right now is DC is just kind of firing off events left and right, left and right. Batman versus Robin just wrapped up and has now launched into Lazarus. Lazarus planet. Which first issue came out this week.
Yeah.
What were your guys' thoughts on that, and what do you think that's going to mean going forward for the DCU?
I really liked again some legacy characters like Power Girl. Those characters come back. And I like the issue. I like the setup. I like where it's going. I liked what they did with the magic stuff. Where the magic was going hokey and it created like super storms on the entire planet, and that they changed how the powers worked for some characters, for both magic based and non magic based characters, because apparently now in these conditions, the yellow sun hurts Supergirl instead of recharges her. We have a wounded Batman who is reliant on a kind of like magical infusion from the devil Neza to stay alive. So yeah, it's an interesting setup, and I can't wait to see where they're going to take things. Anyone
I
else?
unfortunately have not read that yet. I haven't gone to the comic book store.
Damn
And
it.
it's not coming up on my DC Infinite yet. And I even have the deluxe thing. I still haven't seen it on there yet.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Whoops.
Oh no, I mean spoilers don't stop me. I mean,
Yeah, no, I like that issue. I liked it a lot. I won't go into too much more because I don't want to throw it off for Digidax. But I really liked the latest issue of Action Comics. Everybody
Oh,
read
yeah.
that?
Oh,
You guys read that yet?
oh yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't throw it too much.
yeah,
But
I've read that.
seeing like all of a sudden, I mean, like it kind of takes you back to, um, like pre-crisis Superman, where it's like, hey, rules don't really belong to me anymore. Like I can, traverse great distances. But personally, I really did not like the fact everybody knew Clark Kent was Superman. I really didn't like it. I think it's really unique how they had Lex Luthor be the one to solve it, and how he solved it. But then just that one frame, that one page of where Lex is like, okay, I sent you far away. See you later. It's going to be a while. And then all of a sudden, before he could even turn around, it's like, nope, sorry. Like time, distance, space, like those things have no meaning to me anymore. And I'm back, and then I'm taking you apart quickly, just showing you that, hey, it's a different world, and there's a different sheriff in town now. So I really thought that it was really cool. And then honestly, the end of that, where it kind of starts to tease, I'm assuming it's teasing GOG, right? Coming back and going through,
Magog, yeah.
huh?
Magog.
Well, so there was GOG and Magog, right? And
Magog
so
is the god, and Magog is the guy who is basically his puppet.
okay, yeah, where he just kind of goes through kind of hyper time and like just
Yeah.
killing different versions of Superman. So I like how they're kind of now they're tying some Come into it. So it was pretty cool. I really liked that a lot.
Magog was also in the canon issues of Superman. There are two books. There's the In the Name of Gog and the Wrath of Gog, which also features. He was called David. I think he was called David Rice back then, and he became Magog. The guy with the one eye and the laser spear. I think he now has a different name, different last name. He's still David, but he has a different name. And I liked how they set that up in Batman versus Superman, where he was previously the sidekick of Superman. I thought that was pretty cool how they set that up. One little note, what you said about Action Comics Burger. I also really enjoyed the page where you said, Superman doesn't really have to have considerations about gravity and space time and that sort of stuff. I like how all powerful he has become. Like you said, like in pre-crisis. There's just one thing that I maybe didn't like as much about the issue, and that was Lex. He said that he accepted that the world needs Superman because that became clear to him during the Dark Crisis and during the Metal series, I think he was referring to. But then he started, for an evil genius, he started. How do you say this? English word for it. He started not considering. And Lex is always a calculated guy. He's a smart guy. He's supposed to be a genius. And the way he said, the world needs a Superman, but I'm going to give him a better Superman. I'm going to build him a suit. It kind of felt like a little juvenile approach to fixing, quote unquote, Superman. And I didn't really think that was Lex-like. I think Lex would have, I don't know, maybe found a better, different way to deal with Superman without killing him, keeping him around, but keeping him in check or something, not just, yes, the world needs a Superman, and so I'm going to build you a better Superman. It felt too easy, too simple for Lex. I don't think it did Lex any justice, if you understand what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah, you're saying it was just too straightforward for Lex, like
Yeah.
he's saying that.
Yeah. I mean, I liked how Superman handled it. He took his suit apart in like a tenth of a second. But, I thought it was a not so super genius Lex, or, I don't, they could have done Lex a little bit better, in my opinion.
Maybe Lex was drunk that day or was on weed gummies or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Oh man. So one last thing, we're kind of running a little long. I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts? Totally shifting off comic books, but new DCU, changes they've made, announcements that have come out. You guys excited about it? Looking forward to it? Like, what are your guys' first thoughts?
I'm gonna hope for the best, I guess.
You
well,
mean
there's
you mean the movie universe, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I was I really liked Cavill as Superman, so I was a little bit bummed that they killed that. Like Digi said, I hope they do the character justice. I hope they do all the characters justice. I hope they get some great actors for the roles that they have in mind. I am curious what they are going to do about the Matt Reeves Batman. Are they going to keep that intact, or are they going to kill that off too? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm glad James Gunn is heading the project now for the most part, but also, I don't think the Suicide Squad that he did was the best DC movie ever. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't, awesome sauce either. So I don't know. We'll see.
Hawkeye, what about you?
I personally think that everybody just needs to take a chill pill with it. I've heard so many folks that just, kind of just want to burn it to the ground at this point, and it's, why don't we wait, see what actually gets announced, see what this new team is actually going to produce. We have nothing to go off of other than James Gunn's 2 series that he's done that aren't really mainstream. So let's see what he does with a little bit more mainstream before we start trying to crucify the new attempt at the DC universe.
Hey, and I'll say this, I'm not a Marvel guy, but the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie was one of my favorite Marvel movies they made. So,
well, that's saying something.
Yeah, my thoughts. For so long, I would look at the DC animated movies head and shoulders above everything else they were creating.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They all tied together well. They set each other up. They, had a main storyline, but then they had, battles throughout it that kind of like you could tell like breadcrumbs that were kind of tying together with everything. So I loved that, and so I'm hoping, and I really am hoping that that's what we're gonna see with the new DCU, and I'm excited about it. I think the old one, it was more about how do we catch up with Marvel than it is how do we build something that's going to stand on its own and all that. So I hope that that's where I feel like that's where it's going. And so I know it's not always going to be the popular thing, but I think, we're all of the same mind of like, let's just get a badass story put together and let's see some really cool things happen. So, I'm really, really hopeful that's the direction that we're going.
Was it the I don't know, the what do you call that? The guy that gets the voice actors together. The yada yada director from the animated movies. Wasn't he supposed to be the right hand man for Gunn at DC at first?
Gunn did say that he was going to use Justice League Unlimited, Young Justice, and the animated movies as the template of what he was trying to do for the live action movies. I mean, he did say that in one of his interviews, so I guess that's good news.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, well, guys, it was badass hanging out with you guys for a little while today. Listeners, everybody that's out there, know the first episode ran a little longer. But we look forward to coming together and throwing some more comics, and again, like most of the time it'll probably be up to date like what's happening right now in comics, but we will probably do some episodes on prior ones. We'll probably do some things where we get some people to come on and participate, and we'll send you guys the comics that we're going to be discussing, so that way you guys can talk about it with us. But really excited to, bring this kind of new forum, not just sit around and talk about DCL like we normally do, but, really talk about everything behind DCL, the things that kind of brought us to the game and the things that, we've all loved, for the majority part of our lives. So with that, we're signing off. And so thanks everybody for hanging out with us for a little while, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting me for this. Really excited about it. And I hope we do this for a long time. It was great hanging out with you guys.
I had a blast as well. Look forward to doing more episodes with you guys. You guys have a good rest of your days.
Hello, everyone. It's yours truly, the AB. Thanks for listening to the show, and won't you please consider becoming a Patreon? I am, and let me tell you, it's easy, super easy. Just head over to patreon.com/WROL broadcast. Be the first one to get the inside scoop with exclusive content, early reviews. Listen, packages start as low as $1. That's less than a handful of gems. Even an old man like me can do it. And I'm at the age where I want 2 girls. Just in case I fall asleep, they'll have someone to talk to.